there's another transition here, and maybe I'm jumping too far ahead, but at some point there's a transition from you into the state academy. Am I correct?
Correct.
With this, like, so it started out as you're getting your hand slapped, then there's these competitions happening, then there's some people asking questions, the group grows a little bit, the school gets started, then ultimately it's like, we need somebody to be teaching this at a higher level, and now you're going to get your hands on everybody that comes through, and they're all going to be a part of this program. How did that happen?
Okay, so I got to go back a little bit. So when I first started teaching and my chief started letting me do it, I was a very young officer with only a couple of years on. I started having periodically throughout the year, every 3-4 months, I would have a police training jiu-jitsu day, where at my jiu-jitsu school, which was at the time not even my school, I was borrowing somebody else's school, and I continued that through my career, where every 2, 3, 4 times a year I would put it out. At first, it was literally flyers with the numbers you rip off the bottom. Do you remember those?
Yeah.
And I would literally
totally
hand deliver them to all the police departments and meet up car to car and give them a stack, and they would put them on their roll call boards. And that's literally how we started getting people to show up. And it was free. And then if I did one near winter time, like Christmas, I would say, bring an unwrapped toy. That's your entrance fee. And then we would give it to a charitable donation that does, for kids.
Toys for Tots kind of thing. Yeah.
It's called Blue Angels Foundation, actually, run by this retired Manchester cop, Bernie Hallam's, who's a great guy. So we started off doing that, and I called it the Officer Survival Series, because I was like, you know what, we're going to teach officers to survive, and we're going to do a series of these things throughout the year. So we'll call it Officer Survival Series. And that's how the name came, the name came. And then as I did those throughout the year, I was still teaching the more formal classes at the academy, and this wasn't like an every week thing. This was multiple times a year, where they have like a arrested control instructor class at the state, and they would have me come in, and I would come in for a day or two in that class and teach the ground. And then I would, ride off into the sunset. And then they would go back to learning the rest of the whatever they were learning at the time, which I kind of had a problem with a lot of it. I would stick around sometimes and help, but because it was kind of like caught between a rock and a hard place. Because on the one hand, if I didn't show up there and operate under their flag, I couldn't teach cops in Connecticut.
Yeah.
But if I do go there, I started to feel like, well, I'm I'm selling snake oil. You know what I mean? Like, at least the stuff I was teaching was not, but I'm kind of hanging out there, and I'm seeing a lot of the stuff they're being taught. And I know, like, this isn't going to work when the pressure hits, right? So as time went by, and as I got a little more mature and older, I started to have a falling out with the people that ran that program, but they had total control over the state. It was like basically a policy in the state. That's the only thing that could be taught. And I was a guest, teaching my part. And I got to a point right around 2016 where I was like, you know what? I'm not doing this anymore. So my school had gotten quite big at that time. Now, I've got 500 students in my jiu-jitsu school. So I was like, at this point, I'm like, I'm going to teach the cops that want to come to me, and I'm not going to be part of these classes anymore, because I can't bring myself and signing off on instructors when they train for X number of days. They don't train all the time, and we're teaching them like a lot of stuff that is just pointless. So I walked away from it. And when I walked away from it, other agencies started to contact me: Connecticut State Police, Hartford Police, Manchester Police, West Hartford Police, West Haven Police, Department of Environmental Protection. A bunch of these agencies that knew of me and trained a lot with me started hounding me. And they're like, one guy in particular out of Hartford, Jimmy Campbell, he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu as well. And then another guy out of Manchester, judo black belt, Dave Roy. And they independently, not even knowing the other person, they're like hounding me all the time. Hey, you got to do something. You got to put together a program. And I'm like, well, why does it have to be me? You know what I mean? And they're like, no, you're the guy to do it. You're the guy to do it. So I started thinking about it. I started putting some notes together. And then I started like, what should be in a use of force thing. And I went through my whole career, all the divisions I've been in, all the things I've experienced. And I talked to other like-minded people that I knew. And we kind of compared notes. And I put together this, 8-day Officer Survival Series program. And we called it De-escalation through confidence, meaning that, the more confident you are in your abilities, the better chance you'll even have at de-escalating something. You're probably less likely to even use force if you're well confident and aware of what you're doing and aware of the surrender. You don't lose your temper as much and all those kinds of things. But yeah, at the same time, if it does go to that, you're well prepared for it, right? So I started to put that together, and we ran a few trial classes with a couple of different smaller, a couple of different agencies. And from that point, they all loved it. And COVID hit. And I had done a class right before COVID. And then when COVID hit, and they were sending their people to me, and the class wasn't even post-certified yet. And I told them, I said, hey, I'm going to certify an instructor, but post has not signed off on this course. And I had several chiefs tell me, I don't care. I'm not sending my guys to a class that I don't believe in anymore. Oh. And I want them to get proper training. And, one guy actually said, he's like, hey, have you ever used I thought it was the weirdest example ever. He's like, do you use a stapler at work? I'm like, yeah. He said, are you post-certified in it? I'm like, well, no. He's like, all right, then we don't have to be post-certified in every damn thing. As long as it fits case law and it's reasonable, you can do it. He said, people come on the job that have experience as wrestlers. They take someone down with a double. It's not in the curriculum for the state. They don't get in trouble, right? As long as they do it at the right moment, right? So they kind of jumped on with me even before it was certified. And then I took the COVID time instead of, my schools are closed. I don't know if we're going to open again. Right. Everything is tough. And I just opened my second location, and I was right around, retirement time. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I'm going to take this time. I don't know how long I'm going to be closed, and I'm going to really bang this out. So I put it all on paper and put a bunch of video, evidence of what we do. And I submitted it to the academy, and I fully expected a denial stamp within, a month. And to my surprise, about 3 weeks after I sent it, they wrote back and said, approved. And they called me.
Probably the best thing they'd ever seen.
Yeah. And I went down there. I did a full demonstration for them, showed them all the body cam footage, did a full presentation of what we're going to do in the class, which there's a lot to the class. It's not just, physical on the mat. And there was some other help here because the old guard that was basically holding the old way in position, a lot of them had retired and had been replaced with newer people that were more open to change. And the old guard grew up watching Chuck Norris, Steven Seagal, Jean-Claude Van Damme, and that was their vision of martial arts, right? And the new crowd grew up watching MMA.
UFC.
I was able to convince them a lot more because the old crowd was like, we're not teaching cops to be cage fighters. And I'm like, well, no, but we're going to teach them similar ideas that will work in this environment under our use of force laws and with our equipment. They just have to be tweaked, right? So that's kind of how I got it into the state. And then once it got certified through post, I ran the classes out of my academy at first. I have a pretty large academy. And then it got too big for there. And then the Connecticut State Police signed me for a contract, and I did it. I'm going on fourth year with them, and we got 3 more to go. So it's a pretty good, and then hopefully it'll continue. And they brought me in and the Connecticut State Police. If you don't know much about them, they're highly organized and professional agency, but they're also like their own entity. And to break into them and allow them to have you come in is not common, right? So they brought me in. I taught the class. They put tons of troopers in it, and then all the municipal cops would show up as well. And it really took off. 5-star reviews. We put hundreds and hundreds of people through. Every single person loves it. And then we ended up doing it at the academy, and then all the different academies started using it. Hartford Police, Stamford Police, Waterbury, New Britain, New Haven, Bridgeport. All these different agencies now that run academies are running our program. And the Police Officer Standards Training Council, which does all the municipal officers, that's where Bill works, they adopted it as well. Before he even worked there, they adopted it. So that's how it got into the system. And now it's the only system really taught in Connecticut, with the exception of, there's a couple satellite academies that are very, very small that run Gracie Survival Tactics, but I think every single other one runs ours.